Sagittarius friends, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Sagittarius June 2025 astrology horoscope forecast. Oh wow, is this a crazy time or what? We've got our ruler, Jupiter, changing signs for the first time in a year into a sign it hasn't been in for 12 years, starting a new 12-year cycle. Anything that goes on with our ruler, we have to pay extra special attention to, so I'm going to give that a lot of time in this report. We also have a massive amount of Jupiter energy, which is our opposing sign. We always have to pay extra special attention to that as well. And we have a full moon in our sign also. So we've got a lot of things very special for Sagittarius, plus other things to talk about. This is for you if Sagittarius is your sun sign like me, or your moon sign, or your rising sign, or any other Sagittarius placement you're listening for. What I'm going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. Very late degree Sagittarius friends, also like me, so birthdays like December 15th through the rest of the sign, or Sag degrees, 23 degrees through the rest of the sign. I suggest you additionally listen to my Capricorn report, as you very late degree friends will benefit from both readings. So let's start out with some of the easier energy to talk about in the way that it's fast moving. It's not going to be present for very long. This Gemini story, okay? So we've got two outer planets, Sedna and Jupiter in Gemini. Of course, we know Jupiter is about to move into Cancer, but we have Mercury in Gemini, which is a sign that it rules. We've got the Sun there. We have Hygeia there. And Venus will get there. Not this month, early July that will happen, but still, you know, this is time of Gemini, so a lot of the things that I talk about for this month are going to extend into next month because of this as well. So what does it mean? Information overload, activity and busyness overload, information coming in, information going out, education, learning and teaching, and, you know, talking to people and social opportunities and anything having to do with mobility, going places, you know, driving, trains, bikes, planes, everything. Every mode of transportation is going to get super highlighted at this time. And it's all going to be very focused on relationships because for Sagittarius, Gemini lights up the 7th house of relationships. So all of these things are, you know, having more to do with the people that you're interacting with than the information itself. You know, you may be studying something on your own. You may be preparing to teach something. All of those things are lit up very strongly, not only because we still have Mars in our 9th house, which is the house of Sagittarius, not only because on the 11th we have the full moon at 20 degrees of Sag, but also because Gemini is similar to Sag in that way that it does focus on education and information. So you may be doing some solo studies, but there is going to be a very, very, very strong connection to information and people, information and relationships. Studying with someone, talking to someone, taking down information, giving it to them. You know, something about the interaction of information is going to be very relevant at this time. And you will be so busy. That's one of the things about having energy in our 180 degree opposing sign is that it is in the same element harmony, you know, because fire and air go very well together. So it's smooth, it's matching in that way. But it is very, very, very overstimulating. And Gemini does rule the respiratory system, so be extra careful with, you know, taking your supplements if you do that or whatever you do to stay healthy. All of the extra activity could wear you down and you could be more susceptible to respiratory things. So just, you know, just take it as a word of awareness and nothing to be afraid of that, you know, you'll be going 1,000 miles a minute this month for sure. Something that Sagittarius likes, which brings me to one of the most important points about this month is that June is one of the only months in the entire year of 2025 that all the planets are not only moving forward, but we're also out of the well, Pluto will start its retrograde. Actually, Pluto is in retrograde already, but Pluto is in retrograde most of the time, so we'll just ignore that. But all the other outer planets, the inner planets, we are also free from personal planet retrograde shadow periods because those periods of time are very sneaky because they really mimic the retrograde. So what that means is that finally our tides are going out. This started mid-May. If you follow my tide analogy, I talk about how when the stars are going direct, especially those ones close to us, Mars, Mercury, Venus, that it, you know, it really, really regulates our tides, not just the moon, you know, regulates our water tides, but this regulates our Venus tides, which is, you know, love and money, and our Mars tides, which is our energy levels, and our Mercury tides, which is our communication and our information and our movement. So all of these tides are going out. So if you have to do something important, commitments, contracts, taking big actions, big moves, investments. And we'll get to the topic of investments more here pretty soon. Things having to do with money and merging with people. This is definitely one of the best months of the whole year for longevity from these contracts. And that's because when the tides are going out, what you put out there, what you do at this time can go farther and wider for longer because it's not stymied by the energy of the tides coming in. So what we've gone through from September into middle May is that the tides were coming in. So everything you tried to put out on the astrological tides, pushing things out, would come back to you like a boomerang or like a toy on the shore. It just kind of bobs back to you. But we're not in that now. And, we will go back into it soon. We have a little bit of time in the beginning of July free, but then we'll go back into it. So take the most advantage of this month as possible for your clarity, for your movement. And of course, Sagittarius love movement. More specifically, we love our own flow. So this is something that you will see a lot of this month where you can just finally do a bunch of things you've been trying to do. Everything's moving forward, but a lot of your flow is going to be dictated by information coming in and going out, you having to drive and go places and, connect with other people. Something else very important to note is that we are out of eclipse season this month, and that's exciting because we spend most of the time in some sort of level of the eclipse season. Change is life, and the eclipses show us this very strongly. So every 6 months we have eclipses, and the months before and after those eclipses tend to bring radical change. March, April into May, and really February into May, we really saw a lot of change from the closing up of that Aries Libra eclipse cycle after 2 years, the second chapter of the Pisces Virgo eclipse cycles. Probably for you, you've seen a lot of movement with things with your work and your home and family, and your relationships. Me versus we, those were all storylines that we've had going on. And now those things will sort of, as of June, fall back into this is the new normal for whatever the changes were. And, they settle back down into the less conscious space, and you're not going to be dealing with them as much. So, it's more peaceful in that way. Because when we're in an eclipse season, there's just that feeling that change is coming, but it's unknown and we don't know what it is. And it could be very anxiety ridden because of that. But now it's just sort of like, okay, it's a little calm after the storm, and, and it's time for action. So we have the calm with the action. Now, something else to know is that this month we've got very busy skies. So we don't have the retrograde layer. We don't have the eclipse layer, but we do have a lot of aspects, and aspects are when planets come together in a mathematical connection that's meaningful. So we have a lot of that, and we have almost as many sweet aspects as we do salty ones, with just a few more salty ones. Most of those annoying aspects are just little road bumps. There are a couple of them that are longer term. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com and see where it says join now to my free VIP community, you put your email address and name in, and then you get the welcome letter and click on the archive link and put in June 2025 astrology. You'll see my write-up because we've got 2 long-term aspects that I don't have the time to get into here, covering the month, but most of the other ones will just be little road bumps. And we do have at least 13 amazing aspects. So it is a very busy month from the mathematical perspective, and mathematical connections in the sky meaning for us, basically. So when they connect in a meaningful way, that shows up as activity for us. So it's very busy in that way. Okay, so I'm going to go back and talk about some of those closer in planets again later, but I really just want to get to this big thing of Jupiter changing signs. So Jupiter is in a sign for around a year, since about May of 2024 through, early June 9th of 2025. Jupiter was in Gemini. At the beginning of the month, it will still be in Gemini. It will be there for 9 days. Now, one thing to know about Jupiter, this is my own findings from my observation for, many years, is that when Jupiter is about to change signs, there's something about 3 months before that you start noticing the changes coming to the place where Jupiter is going to be in 3 months. So you're seeing the things where it is, Gemini, okay, but and this may mean also the short-term Gemini energy, and this long-term Gemini energy could mean you're writing, you're speaking, you're prolifically creating and prolifically expressing. And all of that is still active, and especially this month because of all of the short-term Gemini placements. It's just a very vociferous type of expression. But at the same time, simultaneously, we've been starting to see, April, May, June, even a little bit of March, that Jupiter is going into Cancer. Okay, the last time Jupiter went into Cancer, actually, let me tell you some of the implications of it, and then we'll talk about the 2 cycles ago, what happened, so that you can kind of think back and then project out what kind of changes you may see. Okay, Jupiter is going to go into Cancer. Cancer rules the 4th house of home and family and housing and real estate. You're going to see expansion and notable things happening in your home life. Many, many, many people will move. In your real estate, many, many people will add real estate to their, collection. If you have real estate, you may get more. If you don't have any, you may acquire real estate. And this is a huge time of acquisition having to do with assets, because as Jupiter is enhancing the 4th house of home, it's also, and that's for all signs. For Sag, it's enhancing your 8th house of investments, of collaboration, of financial entanglement, of loans and assets. So your assets are about to be dramatically expanded, and or your interest in those things are going to be dramatically expanded. So think back to around, we'll say March. It was officially June 2013 through mid-July 2014. But if we factor in that 3-month thing that I told you about, think about May 2013 into mid-2014, and think about what changes to your home and family. Some of you may have been pregnant and had a baby. Some of you may have had roommates added to your house, or you may have downsized, or you may have upgraded your home or living space. You may have beautified it wonderfully. You may have added an additional residence at that time. And you may have deepened your family connections and your deep intimate connections financially and emotionally and spiritually. So if you think back to those type of things at that time, you kind of have an idea of the kinds of things that may come now. Now, to be very clear, and I have this question often, so I'll just head it off by telling you now. If you had something terrible happen in that time frame, it doesn't mean that something terrible is going to happen now. Because there are many things that are different about the stars now than they were then, and we don't really know what it was that may have put together a perfect storm for you to have something tough happen, okay? So you don't have to dread it, because it may not be an exact repeat of what happened, but just the general expansion and benevolence and deepening of those spaces. They're both water houses, so deeper emotional connections, deeper dive into your family, maybe spending more time with your family, maybe returning back home to a place where you lived before, or where your family lived. Or like I said, you could be expanding your relationship space. So if you didn't find your true love, you could have that person come in. If you did find them, you could become engaged. If you're engaged, you become married. If you're married, or whatever order this is, you could have children. Doesn't matter the order. It's just whatever is expanding upon what you already have. That's what Jupiter will likely do in this time frame, but between June of 2025 and around the middle of 2026. So it's June, but again, there's orbs of time. So for the next year, this is going to be a truth for you. And since Jupiter is our ruler, we have to pay extra special attention to this. Now, I'm going to go back one more cycle too. July 2001 through August 2002, and we'll just give it a few months also and say like April of 2001. This way we're honoring that 3-month thing. April 2001 or so through the August or so, middle 2020 or 2002, so 2001 to 2002. This is when that cycle happened prior to that 2013, 2014 one. So if you want to go back that far and kind of think what was going on in those arenas then, I know I can list things right off the top of my head of what happened at that time. I started investing in real estate. I started a real estate business that allowed me to retire from working for people. And, that was over 20 years ago. So, but that business had its origin in that Jupiter cycle at that time. And you may see that happen. You may see the birth of a home-based business or a business having to do with homes. or home services, things like that. You may be really into investing. It can also have to do with wills or inheritances or winning money or, accessing government support or just anything where other people's money is highlighted for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of dates here. June 9th, Jupiter officially goes into Cancer. As I said, you'll already be feeling that. June 11th, full moon in Sagittarius at 20 degrees. This is fullness, completion, fruition, drama coming to Sagittarius-based things. And remember also, like I said, we still do have Mars in for a little longer this month in Leo, which is our sign of Sagittarius, or our house, rather, of Sagittarius. So the full moon and Mars are working in conjunction to bring something notable having to do with teaching and learning, international business, international travel, something having to do with different countries, different cultures, different languages, and expanding your horizons, broadening your horizons, changing your viewpoints, or giving you more optimism, or changing your perspectives, giving you a different way of seeing things. So you may see something especially notable happen in those days around June 11th. Now, all Sages will be, can use this energy, and you may see something very important come to fruition. But those of you who are close to 20 degrees, we'll say between 15 and 25 degrees, the closer to 20 degrees, and that's going to be birthdays, March 7th through December 17th, give or take a few days, because the sun doesn't move into each sign on the same day every year. We're not going to get into all that why, but that's why I have to say the days around. Okay, so around December 7th through around December 17th, the closer you are to around the 12th, 13th or so, the more you may get something very obvious from that full moon. Then on June 25th, we have the new moon at 4 degrees of Cancer. Cancer is the house and sign that Jupiter is also going into. So there's, something new being birthed in your home and family and your housing, and in your roots and your connection to your roots and your ancestry, or your family unit, your family relations. Something new is being birthed, and Jupiter is going to take that and expand it over the next year. Now, Venus is also going to move into Virgo and move through most of Virgo in this month, and that is going to help bring money to your daily experience, finding money on the street, a raise. If you're self-employed, more work coming in, business, things like that. You may also be very much into beautifying your home. If you've been waiting for the Venus retrograde cycle to do your big improvements, then Venus can help you here. Of course, Venus retrograde has been great for small improvements, so you could have been doing those all along. This desire to spruce up your home is going to continue. And this also is really good energy for giving a pet a forever home, or fostering, or doing something with animals. So you'll see all of that lit up. Okay, so I've given you quite a few dates. If you love the dates and you want more of that, go to anniehelpsyou.com where it says join now, the free VIP community. Just put your name and email address in, and then get the welcome letter in the archive link. Put in June 2025 astrology. You'll get my written star report. It's very, very detailed. That with my sweet and salty dates, and then I will give more information about my favorite aspects of the month, the ones to be most awareful and careful of, and I will cover those 2 outer planet connections that are definitely going to be dominating at this time. If you want personalized reports from me, go to anniebclarity.com, Annie the letter B, clarity.com. Also, if you want Jupiter moving through each of the signs and each of the placements for other placements that you have, when you go to anniehelpsyou.com, if you scroll down and see my secret star portal, I do post extra and early content there. You actually get my content the earliest in the secret star portal, but I do send some content out early just for joining that VIP list as well. But anyway, you can get my full Jupiter reports for each sign in the secret star portal that you can find at anniehelpsyou.com. Now, if you want to study astrology or learn astrology with me, either to earn money as an astrologer, as a side job, or to switch professions, or to just help yourself and your family and friends, go to beastropro.com, beastropro.com. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.